Hello. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Just checking to make sure we're live everywhere. Good evening. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing today? Good evening, everybody. Good evening, people. Please let us know where you're joining us from once you join us. It promises to be a great time today. It promises to be a great time, I tell you. So let us know where you're joining us from, please. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let us know where you're joining us from. Good evening, good evening, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on the part of the world that you are. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a great time today. It's going to be a great time today. Hello, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us. It's going to be a great time today. I promise you that. Okay, one second. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for joining us. I want to start a little bit late because I want enough people to get in the room. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. It's gonna be a great time tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. While people are coming, I'm gonna start. So please, whenever you join, let us know where you're joining from. It is. It promises to be a great class, a great session. It's gonna be a discussion-based talk. It's going to be a discussion based talk. So some of you might you see this later and you're like, hey, Matt, this is not what you like to do. It's going to be a discussion based session. So please let us know where you're joining us from. The question is, does God actually exist? Let us know where you're joining us from. The question this afternoon is, does God actually exist? Let's be honest. I want to hear your thoughts in the chat. Please type what you think in the chat. Does God actually exist? Let's be honest with it. Like if you know this platform, all answers are correct in this room, right? I'm not here to impose what I know on anybody, but yeah, I like to talk about things. Does God actually exist? Does God actually exist? Let's be honest with that. Thank you for joining us. My name is Matt Miller, and this is Built for More, where we add questions. We'll hear every day of the week, all right? Releasing videos and shorts and doing live. So if you're meeting us for the first time, thank you. So we're asking a very honest question today. Does God actually exist? I want to hear your thought. I want to hear your thought. I want to hear your thought. Does God actually exist? Or you say, can you make me mode? I don't know how to make mode. I don't know how to do that, Cookie. Does God actually exist? In your world, does God actually exist? Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Let's be honest with ourselves. I just want to hear honest thoughts tonight. Does God actually exist? Because a lot of us have this question on the back of our minds, but we don't talk about it. We just leave them there. We don't talk about them. Like these questions are bugging a lot of people. We don't talk about it. I'm talking about this today because yesterday while I was talking, somebody brought up that talk and he said, my mom told me God does not exist. And I didn't argue. I said, that's all yours. I'm not arguing with you, but it is what you believe, right? So I'm asking that question tonight, like to all of you in this room. Does God actually exist? Do you think God exists? Do you think, have you seen, have you gathered enough evidence to say God exists? I don't want to answer the question, but let me start tonight with this question, okay? I don't want the answer you think you're supposed to give. Okay, I don't want the answer you think you're supposed to give. I want your answer. Do you actually believe God is real? To you, your answer, do you actually believe that God is real? It's not, were you raised in church? That's not what I'm asking you this evening. It is not, do you believe there is probably, there's something out there, probability that there's something out there? That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, when you're alone, when nobody is listening, when life is not working as you planned, when the prayer hasn't been answered, do you believe there is a God? Tonight's talk promises to be great. Do you believe there is a God? Do you believe God exists? When things are not working right in your life, when the world is in turmoil, the world is in chaos, what do you believe? Do you believe there is a God? I want to know your thought, please. I want to know your thought. Please drop your thought in the comment section. I want to know your thoughts. Thank you. I said today's talk is going to be more interactive, okay? Because this is coming from someone yesterday that had, hey, Roxy, how are you doing? Roxy, how are you doing? How are you? How is today? You're good. Thank you. So I just started the show. I just started the live right not too long ago. And I'm asking a question, Roxy. Do you believe there is a God? Does God really exist? Does God really exist? Oh, yes, you said yes. Okay, that's great. I like that. Thank you so much for that. And like I did say, on this channel, there's no right or wrong answer, okay? You said yes. So how do you know God exists? Stephen Bannon said, after your parents created you, how did you pick your favorite story of God made up by humans? Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. My parents raised me Christian, but now I study religious history. Okay, that's a good thought. Thank you. Like I say, on this channel, we don't question people's belief, right? We just talk about the hard topics and hear other people's thought. This is a safe space, okay? Do you believe there is a God? That's the question I'm asking. Oh, Roxy said because God is in the class. I didn't get that. You said God is in the class. Can you explain further what you mean? I think there are people watching right now and some that will watch this later who will say, absolutely, I know it's real. Like Roxy just said, Roxy said, he knows there is a God. He knows God is real. And there are others who would say, Matt, I want to believe. But if I'm being truthful, I'm struggling. Oh, Stephen said Christianity seemed to be far from one demographic area, but people on the other side of the earth had their own spiritual stories at the same time. Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thanks for that. It is like I said, this is a no judgment zone. Thank you for your thoughts. And like I did say, there are some people here that will say, "Hey, Matt, I want to believe, but I'm struggling." And maybe someone else is watching who doesn't believe at all. Maybe you saw the title and you're like, okay, convince me. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, Roxy is saying because God is in class, is a man. I don't get that. Can you explain further, Roxy? Explain further. Somebody might say, I'm struggling, I want to believe. Somebody will say, I don't believe at all. Matt, convince me that there's a God. Anyway, if you fall in any of these group categories, welcome. Seriously, welcome. You're welcome here. Like I said, this is a no judgment zone. So Stephen said, do you believe humans created time and the calendar before stories of God? Well, Stephen, if you're asking me that question, I don't believe humans created time. Personal, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't believe humans created time because time existed before humans. All right. You said I did. God is in the class. Okay. Thank you so much, Roxy, for that. I'm loving the flow. It's getting better tonight. See, guys, tonight is not about religious performance. Okay. I'm not interested in pretending difficult questions don't exist. I'm not here to shout you into believing what I believe. Now, I'm not doing that at all. Okay? Who created the languages we speak? The languages we speak is communication between humans. It is human that created languages, Stephen. I hope I'm answering your question. Grim truth. Why would you worship a God who uses rape as punishment, commands the murder of children, condones slavery? Thank you, deep grim truth. I would like to know where you got that from. I love it. I love that. I want to know where you got that from. I like facts. Back your claims with data. I love it. I love it. Can you speak in telepathy? No, I can't, Stephen. Can you expatiate on that, Stephen? Can you I like to know more about that. Thank you so much, guys. I love this. This is getting better. All right. See, I'm not interested. Sam. So Grim Truth said he got his assumptions from Second Samuel. Wow, there's a lot coming up. I'm liking this. You know what? I like some truth here. Let me go check some scripture that so this is Second Samuel. I want to see what that looks like. Second Samuel chapter 12 verse 11 to 12. So Grim Truth, I hope you're still there because I want to read that. It states that the prophet Nathan delivers God's judgment to King David after David's hidden sin of adultery with Bathsheba and the mother of Uriah. That doesn't sound like God condones slavery. Grim Truth, I want to hear more from you. I want to hear more from you. Stephen said the Bible was written by rich, educated people while the poor masses couldn't read. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a packed statement. While there are people that believes that, I for one don't believe that. I believe the Bible was inspired by God, written by people, written by men, but they were inspired by God. And the people that wrote the Bible were not rich people. They were not rich people. The Bible was transcribed by one person. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Let's go. I like this. It wasn't transcribed by one person. Which Bible are you talking? Are you talking about King James? Is that the one you're talking about? But that's not the only Bible we have in the world. It wasn't transcribed by one person, Steve. This is Stephen Kelly. I like it. Stephen, please, can you give us details on that? Can you tell us how do you... But if you're talking about King James, it's just one person. It's not the only Bible we have in the world. It cannot transcribe one and it affects the others, right? So we have a lot of translations in the world today. So yeah, I like to hear this. Thank you, guys. Thank you. It's getting better. And like I did say, I'm not here to shout you to believe into what I believe. No, and I'm not here to. I'm definitely not here to insult your intelligence. No, I want us to think. As I started thinking about this yesterday because somebody asked me during one of my live sessions yesterday about this. He said, God doesn't exist. I was told God doesn't exist. I'm like, whoa, okay. And I felt that is not just a one person's idea. It is possible a lot of people are talking about it. So I just wanted to have that ad question discussed about this night. All right. I want us to think. I want to ask us a question. Please click on the like. I want you to like this live so that I can go further, so that a lot of people can join. Please click on the like button, please. Thank you so much. Click on the like button, please. Let's do that. Stephen Kelly said, assuredly, he is the person who gave the Vulgate, which is the original words, which other men have given partial translation denoted by assertion and pride. Okay. In the English language, God is a translated word from the 6th century to fit into the English language. That's Stephen Boehner. Okay. I don't have enough information to counter what you said, Stephen Kelly. But one thing I know is that King James was not the first version of the Bible that was translated. There were other versions that were translated. You know what? I'm going to fact check that right now. Like the first Bible translation into English. I just want to fact check that. So the first Bible translation into English was by John Wycliffe in 1382. Hello, Matt. Andrea, how are you? How are you? Becoming a saint today is the same as getting a merit badge in the Boy Scout. Wow. Wow, that's rather hard. Don't you think so, Stephen? That's hard. That's hard. Andrea is saying he or she is from Italy. Good. Please, can you please like this live? Can you please double tap on the live? I want you to go wide so a lot of people can join. Thank you so much. Thank you. Stephen Banner, this is tough. He said becoming a saint is the same as getting a merit badge in the Boy Scout. That's a lot. That's a lot. I think it's more than that. Come on, man. It should be more than that. It should be more than that. So Andre's asking where are you from? I'm from Canada. I'm from Canada, Andre. Thank you so much. So Andre, do you believe God exists? That's what we're discussing. I want us to be honest. All right. I want us to be honest. This is one of the biggest questions human can ask. Does God actually exist? Does God actually exist? Do you think he does? You're Catholic. Oh, that means you believe. Correct? Andre, you believe because you're Catholic. And I can see your picture. I can see your image. You're Italian. Oh, you're Catholic. You believe. Genuinely, you believe. Okay. Good job, Andre. Good job. See, nobody's going to attack you on this call. Nobody's going to attack on this session. We're just discussing. All right? Nobody preaches at anybody here. We're all discussing. We're all having real conversation like adults. And nobody's going to judge anybody, for sure. Let's create a room where people can actually tell the truth. That's what I'm trying to do with my channel. Create a space where people can tell the truth without being victimized. Okay. Also, one thing I think, if God is real, I don't believe God is threatened by your questions. So it's good we ask questions if we're confused. Here's something I've learned. Okay, sometimes when someone says, I don't know if I believe in God anymore, they are not really asking a philosophical question. No, they are not asking a philosophical question. Sometimes they are carrying a wound, they're carrying an injury. All right? Because it is one thing to discuss God when everything is going well, and it's another thing entirely to discuss God when you're in the hallway of an hospital. Guys, just hear me. I'm trying to be real here. All right? When somebody say, I don't know if I believe in God anymore, why do some Christian saints have mascots to lure children into Christianity? Now, okay, use this mascot. Steve, there are people that does things out of them that are alluded to their personal person. Okay? That doesn't make Christians that way. Right? A person can be bad and be a Christian. Because he's a saint or he was elected into an office, that is not Christianity. Santa Claus is a character. That is not, it doesn't depict Christianity. Leprechaun doesn't depict Christianity. These are humans that have done things, whether wrong or right. So that in and of itself, that argument doesn't conclude that all Christians are like that. That's how I see it, though. That's how I see it. Yeah, Santa Claus has been there. So Santa Claus has been there before the Christianity. Oh, so Green Truth is talking from Leviticus. It's about slavery. Whoa. Now there are so many things that happened in the Bible, okay, that happened in the context of where it happened. Because I'm a Christian, so I can speak to some of those things. So when you talk about slavery in the Bible, it is in the context of the tradition of the people as at that time. All right, things changed. But you can't be holding what is recorded in Leviticus as a reason for not believing Christianity today, right? I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying that I just want us to look at different truths, different angles, okay? I can't say because I heard a story that all black men, they are like this, or somebody that is a black man is like this. I'll now conclude that all black men are like that. It is not in the ethos. There are some personal things we should be able to take out of religion. It might be a person. I'm just saying, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but yeah. And I'm also saying that some people carry a deep wound. So you are a moral relative. Well, not not like that. Not like that. I am a Christian. I am a Christian, Grim Truth. I am a Christian. And the Bible is my guide. All right. So, yeah, that's the answer to that. So, Stephen Bannon said, beside the democratic area of the Bible, do you believe people on the Polynesian island had their own spiritual beliefs? Yes, yes, because even where I come from, I'm from Africa originally. Africans, before the advent of the scriptures, before the advent of Christianity, people had their beliefs. People had their beliefs, and well, I'm not in the position to say the beliefs were wrong or right, but they had their beliefs before the advent of the Bible, before the Bible got to them. So yes, the same thing with the Polynesians, they had their beliefs too. So yes, you're correct with that. They had beliefs. So, but how does that affect our question? Because see, I'm looking at God in terms of the absolute tonight. Okay, does God exist? Do you believe? Okay, Stephen, I'll put this to you, Stephen. Stephen and Grim Truth. I put this to you. Stephen said, I was in a medical experiment in an hospital because I can speak in telepathy and do other things, and the Bible was used in disrespect towards me. Oh, okay. Now, if so, Stephen, if you might have encountered somebody that is going overboard to do stuff, that doesn't mean that's how Christianity is. That's what I'm saying. Try to take out the person as at that time away from religion. It might be a personal thing. So that person could have been a Muslim, it could have been a pagan, it could have been anything. That's generalization. That's what I'm saying. That's what we shouldn't do. Because if you do that, you'll miss the whole source. Don't do that. Like I also don't tend to do that. I tend not to do that. That doesn't mean that God is not real. You had that's what I'm saying. You had a bad experience. You had a sour grape. That doesn't mean all grapes are sour. Right? I'm just trying to say that. Okay. Stephen said, I get so many stereotypes of God since the experiment. Okay. See, like Stephen, what you're just going through, I'm not putting you on the spot, but what you're just going through is what I said. There are a lot of people who have been wounded. So because of the wound, they believe that God doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, because of the wound, they believe that God doesn't exist anymore. They are carrying that wound. That's a bad experience they had. And somebody that was dressed as a Christian was the one that got them through that experience. Of course, I can. I'm gonna do that, Stephen. I'm gonna pray for you at the end of this show. We're gonna have a nice time. So just please stay around, stick around, and please hit the like, hit the like. I want it to go. I want it to go spread a little bit so that we can have more people look into this, more people come into this. I like this talk because at the end of the day, we're here for truth. We're here for truth. We're here for truth. All right. Okay. Now, I said there are those that carries one special type of wound, right? And it's another thing entirely to discuss God in an hospital hall way. I said that before. It is different when you have prayed and you have prayed and you have prayed and the diagnosis doesn't change. Okay? Stephen, I'm with you. I'm reading your thought. I'm reading your thought. Let me just read some of the thoughts I put down. It is different when you ask God to save the marriage and the person still walk away. Do you know that? It is different when you did what you thought was right and you still lost your job. It is different when someone you love dies too young, when you lose a father, a mother, a sibling, a relative, a friend too young, and you were praying to God, you were looking to God for God to do something, and God didn't do anything. So you start asking the question, does God really exist? Does God really exist? It is different when someone you love dies, and everybody around keeps saying God has a plan. The question is, what kind of plan will God be having when he's killing somebody that I love? Somewhere inside you're thinking, what plan could require this? What kind of plan could require this? See, that's a different conversation, okay? Maybe your question isn't, does God exist? Maybe your question is, if God exists, Matt, if you say he exists, where was he? Where was God? Where were you when my mother was sick? Where were you when my child was hurting? Where were you when I begged? Where were you when the person abused me? Now, these are deeper questions. Where were you when my family fell apart? Where were you when I needed you? These are not small questions, man. He said, I felt the stigmatized every day. I did a 14-day fast for God during the experiment with no food and less water. One was, okay, I hear you, Stephen. Well, I see that you've been through a lot. I hope at the end of this talk, we're able to talk some things that will really, really put light in your soul. Right? These questions are tough questions we're talking about. See, tonight, I don't want to give you a small answer to these questions. I don't. Sometimes Christians become uncomfortable with questions like this. A lot of us will rush. Now, I don't have them on this call right now, but a lot of Christians, if they are here, they will rush to defend God. They will rush to defend God. They will rush. Oh, he said Jesus came in as a liar. Okay, that's something that can be that can be debated. That is something that can really, really be debated. Okay, but yeah, let's see. A lot of people will come here, they will rush to defend God. They will quote, we quote a verse of the scripture. We tell people to have more faith. But sometimes the most honest thing we can say is, I don't fully understand either. See, when this question came up yesterday, when somebody talked about this yesterday, does God really exist, Matt? I told the guy, I don't fully understand. I can't lie to you. I don't fully understand what you're doing. But does God exist to Matt? Yes, it does. How do I know? I have seen so many goodness. I've seen so many things, so many reasons, so many evidences to back the claim that God exists. You said Jesus Christ shouldn't be part of a medical experiment that I don't understand at the time. Yes, it shouldn't be. See, that's why I said, Stephen, you might have gone through something that was wrong, that was perpetrated by somebody, but that's not the end of the world. That's what I'm saying. All right. Like I did say, when that guy was talking to me yesterday, I said, I don't fully understand too. And that's very important. But see, tonight, I'm not going to pretend I have an explanation for every tragedy. I'm not. And I don't have it. Like, if you know my channel very well, if you're following me, you see all the videos I do. When I say things, I'm like, I say a lot of these things from experimental position. I don't have the final answer, and I will not pretend that I have it. There are things I've seen in life that I cannot explain. There are prayers I've seen answered, okay? And there are prayers I've watched sincere people pray where the answer they desperately wanted never came. I've seen those things in life. So I understand why somebody will ask if God is real. Why does he sometimes feel completely absent? I understand. So Steve Banner, coming back to you, said just because I can do telekinesis and telepathy, they shouldn't pick a story of God for me in a medical experiment. Okay. Now you went a little bit far on with your stuff, but I think at the end of the day we'll be able to talk a little bit sense, a little bit some nice stuff here. Now, I just want to ask a question to those guys in the chat. Have you ever experienced something that made believing in God hard? Have you ever experienced something that made believing in God very hard? I just want to know. Steve, have you ever experienced something that made believing in God very hard? You don't have to tell us what happened, okay? A yes or a no is okay. That's why we're having this conversation today. Have you ever experienced something that made believing in God very hard, very difficult? Have you ever experienced anything like that? That is why we're having this conversation. You don't have to tell us the story. A yes or a no is more than okay. While you're thinking about that, can I tell you something interesting? I don't think doubt is always the opposite of faith. I don't think so. Sometimes doubt is what happens when you inherited faith or when your inherited faith becomes your own. He said, I don't think the hospital experiment does God. I think they know more than me and they link to the government. Okay. Sometimes doubt is what happens when your inherited faith becomes your own. Maybe you grew up hearing things like God is real because the Bible says so. Okay. But then you got older. You met intelligent people who doesn't believe the Bible. You encountered other religions. You studied science. You experienced some kind of suffering. You watched people behave terribly while carrying God's name. Thank you, Steve, for subscribing. I appreciate it. You watch people behaving terribly while carrying God's name. That's where I said a lot of people don't assume every priest, whatever he does, that's what Christianity is. He's a human with flaw. He's got his own personal flaw. So if I look at him as a symbol of Christianity, I might be wrong. The Bible should be your standard. Because we are humans, we can make mistakes. Yeah, we can make mistakes. A lot of us, we've watched people behave terribly while bearing the name of God. And suddenly, the answers that worked when you were 12 years old, when you were 10 years old, didn't work when you were 35, when you were 25. Because now you can think better. Now you can rationalize things. The faith you used to have as a young kid, the faith no longer relates. That's not rebellion. That's not rebellion. Sometimes that is growth asking for deeper roots. That is growth asking for question. Oh, answers. He said, did Jesus make a mistake by running his mouth in front of the wrong people? I don't think he did. I don't think he ran his mouth. I think he was teaching. I think he was teaching. He didn't make a mistake because the reason why he came for those crowd, for that set of people. Yeah, so that's what I see. He didn't make a mistake. Maybe someone tonight watching this, you're being hurt by the church. I'm coming there. We're going to get there tonight. Maybe you've been hurt by a church. Maybe you've been hurt by somebody that's a preacher. Yeah, It's possible. Maybe you've been manipulated by somebody using the scripture. And now you're growing, you're like, this is manipulation. Maybe the person who taught you about God didn't live anything like the God they described. Why didn't Jesus have a personal journal? Why do we rely on witnesses? He didn't have a personal journal because at that time when it came, this is my thought. Stephen, this is my thought. He didn't have a personal journal because at that time when it came, I don't think there were books. So we relied on witnesses to be able to tell the story. And those stories were written down in scrolls, as we're told. They were written down in scrolls that were later translated into the Bible. That is what that's the answer to that, Stephen. I might be wrong, like I always say, but that's how I see it. Maybe the person who taught you about God didn't live exactly like the God they described. And eventually you thought, if that is Christianity, I want nothing to do with it. Friend, if you're in that bucket, I understand that. I understand you. But here's the question I'll ask you. I want to ask you this question, guys. Could someone misrepresenting God be evidence against that person without necessarily being evidence against God? Will someone misrepresenting God be evidence against that person without being evidence against God? That's worth thinking about. That's worth thinking about, guys. Because you've seen a pastor, you've seen a priest, you've seen a saint, you've seen a reverend. That reverend represents God. But if that person is making a mistake, do you think it is God that is making a mistake as opposed to that person? That's why I say you should be able to understand that humans are humans. We are not perfect. We are humans and we're not perfect. So no matter what they've done to you, no matter what you've experienced in life, that doesn't change the fact that God is real. Oh, that doesn't change the fact. Think about that for a moment, friends. Because I don't want my disappointment with people to answer a question people cannot answer for me. The question is, does God exist? That question deserves its own investigation. That question deserves its own investigation. Does God exist, really? Does he exist? Were we sold a lie? Were we sold a lie? Now we're going somewhere uncomfortable. Yeah, Stephen said, if Jesus was alive today, will he be a fad magician like David Blind? I don't think so. I don't know so. But if he were alive today, I think he will be preaching what he preached. He will be preaching exactly what he preached in the Bible. Yeah, that would be my answer, Stephen. Now, I want to go somewhere a little bit uncomfortable. Guys, let's engage. Let's ask questions. I like the way Stephen is asking questions. Oh, so Sukamba Boudoir said, Jesus Christ loves you and he died for you. Oh, you're correct. So on that, we're both aligned. Okay, we're both aligned. So you can throw in more questions. I like that. Now, going somewhere uncomfortable a little bit tonight because I'm going to spend part of tonight telling you why I believe. Okay? I do believe that, see, guys, like I did say, the cause for this discussion is not to say, do I really, God exists or God doesn't exist? It's a question. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that God exists. Okay, why I believe that God is real. But before I do that, let me argue against myself. Okay, I want to put myself on the other side. I want to do self to self argument. If God exists, why doesn't he just show himself? Yeah, because when things like this are happening, when you have discussions like this, at least you just show up and say, hey, look at me, everybody, and just go back, right? Seriously. Why all the mystery? Why not appear unmistakably? Why are there thousands of religion traditions with people sincerely believing different things? Why? Why do terrible things happen to innocent people? I'm going to do a full video on that. Have you studied earth energy? No, I've not studied that. Is there a book on that? Let me know. I'm going to read it. Why do terrible things happen to innocent people if God exists? Why does a child get cancer if God exists? Now, these are valid questions. Why earthquake in Japan, in Philippines, in Venezuela? Why? Why famine? A lot of places in the world. There's no food. Why the wars? Why the war everywhere if God exists? Why does one family pray and celebrate a recovery while another family prays just as sincerely and they plan a funeral? I told you guys, whenever you come into my channel, there's going to be a lot of thinking. Why does one family pray and they say, oh, thank God our child recovered? And another family prays and they plan a funeral, their child die. Why? Is God partial? Is God for a certain class of people? Is God for a certain group? Were we sold a lie? Why does God sometimes seem silent precisely when someone needs him the most? See, these questions, they matter. And here's another one. What if human beings invented God because we are afraid of death? Think about it for a second. Just think about it. We know we're going to die. That's terrifying, right? It's terrifying. So perhaps humanity created heaven because we couldn't tolerate the idea of ending. Maybe religion gives us comfort. Maybe prayer gives us psychological reassurance. Maybe believing somebody is in control takes chaos, or it makes chaos easier to survive. Friends, I'm arguing against myself. That's what I told you guys. And all that, they are legitimate argument. They are legitimate argument. And if you're an atheist watching, or an atheist that's going to watch this, maybe you're thinking, finally, somebody actually understands my objection. You're thinking, finally, I found a brother in Matt Miller. He understands my objection. I hope so. Because I don't want to argue against a cartoon version of unbelief or a cartoon version of unbelief. I want the strongest questions. Because if what I believe is true, truth shouldn't need protection from questions. If what I believe is true, truth should not be scared of being put on the stand and questioned. So let me say that again. If God is real, my question cannot make him disappear. If God is real, is big enough to answer my question cannot make him small. And if my faith collapse the moment somebody asked me a difficult question, maybe my faith needed deeper foundations. Yeah, maybe my faith needs to go a bit deep. Ricky Rollins said, I'm opposed to all religion, but when I look to Christ, I see only the face of God. I've come to believe Christ is Lord. Boom. I like that. I like what you're saying. I like exactly what you're saying, man. I like that thought. See, guys, I'm going somewhere tonight. I told you it's going to be a deep thought, a deep lesson tonight. So there are some reasons someone might struggle to believe. I told you I wasn't planning this yesterday. It was my live session yesterday that brought up this. Please, guys, click on the like this live. I want it to go. I want more people to come into the room. So click on the live. Thank you so much. It was my live session yesterday that made me do this. Somebody asked me when I was talking yesterday. He said, "Matt, is God real? Does God exist?" He said, "My mother told me God doesn't exist," and I couldn't argue with the person. I couldn't, because he must have lived something that has fueled that has built that knowledge. So I went to bed asking myself, Matt, is God real? I asked myself yesterday night, Matt, is God real? When I went to church today, I asked myself, Matt, is God real? Elevator said, where are you from? I'm from Canada. Then I saw reasons to believe that it's real. So I said, let me talk about this today. Let me talk about this today. I said, if my faith collapsed the moment somebody asked me a difficult question, maybe my faith needed foundation work anyway. Let me turn the question around a little bit, okay? Because there are some things I struggle to explain without God too. There are so many things I struggle. I can't explain them without God. If I'm going to give you 7 things that makes me pause before saying there is no God, please notice my language. I'm not saying here are 7 mathematical proofs and now you have no choice but to become a Christian. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying these are 7 things that make me stop. It makes me think. It makes me wonder. It makes me ask, is there more here than an accident? Ricky said, I came to understand that man cannot comprehend the character of God the same way a worm can't understand the mind of a man. Oh, great thought. Great thought. This makes me ask, is there more, or is there more than an accident? Or so why I'm trying to give them to you. Please, you can disagree with me. Seriously, put your argument in the chat. I want this to be a conversation, all right? Put your argument in the chat. Before Christianity, before the Bible, before church, before religion, there is something. You, me, matter, energy, galaxies, existence itself. All this existed. Why? Why is there something rather than nothing? You can tell me how things interact once they exist. That's incredibly valuable. But eventually, I find myself asking, why does anything exist at all? Jester Clown Mind said, there is ton of evidence Jesus was the Son of God, but as described in the Bible, the strong delusion is cast by God to protect free will. That's a deep thought. That's a deep thought, Jester. But eventually I can ask myself, why does anything exist at all? Maybe you say, it just exists, Matt. Things just exist. Okay. But then I ask myself again, could existence itself be pointing towards something beyond it? Ricky Rollins said things exist because God wills it. Ricky, you're going somewhere with that thought. You're going somewhere. You're going faster than me. I said, look at what I just said. I said, could existence itself be pointing towards something beyond it? Ricky, you're going there. I can't prove that in 30 seconds. I can't prove that in 30 minutes. But I can't stop wondering about it either. I can't stop thinking about it either. Okay, I can't stop. Could that be? Could this be something somebody can dig into and look into and say, existence, is it pointing towards something? I've not read any book on that. So if you've read a book on that gives clarity on that, please let me know. I like to read. Here's another thing that fascinates me, guys. You cannot rationalize the creation of God because of his strong delusion and Satan's scale of sins blind people. Converts can only be convinced with moral argument. Okay. I like the thought. Guys, please like the live. I want this live to go. I want a lot of people to be in the room. Please like, just click on live. Thank you. That's just all I want. Here's another thought that fascinates me. Okay. We live in a universal governed by pattern. We live in a world governed by patterns. Mathematics works. Physics works. We can discover laws. We can write them on a board. We can build something. We can send it into space. You know what Artemis 2 just happened? We can send it into space. We can even predict where it will go. That's astonishing. And my question isn't, does science prove God? No, that's not my question. Science is extraordinarily good at investigating the natural world. My question is deeper. Why is reality intelligibly at all? Why is reality intelligible at all? Why does the human mind have the ability to discover the structure of a universe it didn't create? Why can you think of things that you didn't create? Things that you never knew were there, but your mind can picture them. You can draw science, you can do permutations and combinations around them, and you can bring them into and you can make us believe. Why? Guys, maybe there's a pure natural explanation, but I still pause because order makes me wonder about its source. Does that not mean there is a God? That's another thought. I'm giving you guys thoughts why I believe God exists. All right. So I might go a little bit very deep. I'm sorry. What we're thinking tonight. And I told you tonight is going to be a lot of thinking. So put on your thinking cap, man. We're going to drive together. Now think about yourself, guys. Think about yourself. You're not merely existing. You know you are existing. There's a knowledge that you're existing. You are experiencing this conversation. You have memories. You have regrets. You have dreams. You can imagine tomorrow. You can ask what your life means. Well, I just did a video on my channel. It is called, If You Don't Like This Life, How Are You Protecting It? Please, guys, go watch it. Go check it out. Let me know your thought. You can imagine tomorrow. You can ask what your life means. You can stand under the night sky and suddenly you feel incredibly small. Consciousness remains one of the deepest mysteries we wrestle with. How does subjective experience arise? Why is there an inner you experiencing anything? Oh, I want to read what Jester is writing. Jester said, millions of atheists ignore the historical and forensic evidences of miracles. Jesus being the Son of God, etc. God is love and truth, but only God will spiritually awaken people. I agree. 100% yes. Oh, 100. You just strike the nail on the head, and I love that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Jester, for your thought. You're thinking out of the box, and I like it. So I'm asking the question, why is there an inner you experiencing anything? Again, I'm not saying scientists don't know anything or don't know everything, therefore God. All right, that's lazy reasoning. What I'm saying is this. Consciousness leaves me with enormous questions. Consciousness leaves me with enormous questions, with a lot of questions. And God makes sense of that mystery to me in a way pure accident was never fully satisfied. God made sense of all these mysteries in a way science alone cannot answer. That's another reason why I believe in God, why I believe God exists. I'm giving you steps or reasons. Here's another one. I'm thinking within the box. The Bible states that evidence of God is concealed by the strong delusion. We have to come to God of our own free will out of love. Okay, I agree to that. I agree to that thought. So here's another one. Where does our sense of oath come from? Oath is O-U-G-H-T. Not what we prefer, what we oath, what we believe people should do. When somebody touches an innocent child, we don't normally say that is personally not my preference. Something inside us screams, that's wrong. When somebody sacrifices themselves to save another person, something inside us recognizes goodness. Now, philosophers have debated morality for centuries. There are secular explanations, there are religious explanations. I'm not pretending the debate is easy. It's not easy at all. But I keep coming back to this. If objective moral truth exists, what grounds them? Why should good and evil mean anything beyond personal or social preference? For me, a moral law makes me wonder about a moral source. God exists. That's another point. God exists. God is a moral source. Beauty is another point. This one isn't an argument as much as a mystery, okay? Have you seen something so beautiful? You stop talking. A sunset. I was at Miami, Florida, last week. I woke up from my hotel. As soon as I spread the blinds, I saw this sunrise. My mouth just went, so beautiful. I couldn't move. I just waited there. I just looked at it in its majesty. Have you watched your child sleep? Have you watched your child sleeping? Just look at your child sleeping. That beauty. Have you listened to symphony? Have you listened to music in a well-tuned radio system, in a good speaker? Music that somehow reaches somewhere words cannot reach. Have you listened to that? Have you sat in a well-oiled room and you played good music? Have you stood under the stars at night and looked at the stars in their beauty, in their arrangement? Have you looked across an ocean? Have you stood and looked across an ocean? And just for a moment, you weren't trying to own anything. You weren't trying to achieve anything, to prove anything. You were just in awe. All you could just say is, wow. Now, someone can explain wavelengths of light, brain activity, evolutionary responses. Wonderful. I'm a scientist. I love those things. But there's another question. Why does beauty feel meaningful? Oh, Crown Jewel, thank you. Why does beauty feel meaningful? Why can beauty make us feel homesick for somewhere we've never been? Most of you, I tell you this, and I mean it with so much truth. Most of you have heard of Bora Bora. Most of you have heard of the Indian Ocean. You've not been there. You've seen pictures, you've seen paper. But that thing captivates your mind. You're thinking, when will I be there? Why does beauty captivate us so much? Why does it hold so much meaning? I can't prove God with a sunset. I can't. But sometimes a sunset makes atheism very hard for me. That's my honesty. That's mad. That sunset, that glimpse of lighting makes me think, oh, somebody's behind all this. Going out by 10 p.m. in the night and looking at the stars in their majesties makes me believe somebody's behind all this. That's another thought of mine. Or just as said, morality and truth is objective. People's selfish desires delude them. I agree to that point, that line. Everybody knows murder is wrong. Yeah, that's morality. The Bible states Satan is the god of the earth. Modern entertainment is a distraction from God. Yeah, I agree to your thoughts. Thank you for sharing. Now, another reason why I believe God exists. You know, tonight we're asking the question, does God exist? And I'm going to be asking the question a lot this week. So please tune in. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not done that. Kind of hit it. I want this to go wide for a lot of people to listen to. Thank you. Now, this gets personal for me, okay? There have been moments in my life as Matt Miller standing here where circumstances that came together in ways I still struggle to call coincidence. I can't call them coincidence. KLN said, if we trust in God and we obey him, we will not be desiring what's on earth here. We'll be desiring spiritual things because they are way above all. Okay, I agree with you. Thank you so much for that thought. Great thought. Thank you. There are moments in my life when circumstances came together in ways I still struggle to call coincidence. Prayers, doors, opportunities, people arriving at exactly the right moment. Things happening that I could not have orchestrated. I could not have planned. Could there have been coincidences? Yes, it's possible. I have to be intellectually honest enough to say that. But when coincidence keeps arriving with meaning attached to it, I pay attention. And I think you should too. And here's something else, guys. I've watched people pray desperately and not receive the outcome they wanted. So I will never stand here and tell you guys prayer works like a vending machine. I will not put faith in it. Miracle comes out, and that's not life. But neither can I dismiss everything I've experienced. I cannot dismiss them. Oh, Jester said, there is mountains of evidence the earth is flat with a firmament, as stated by the Bible, but we all have been deceived by powers and principalities. All that matters is faith in Jesus. I agree with you. All that matters in this world is faith in God. Yeah, agreed. I said I can't dismiss the things I've experienced. So I've lived inside that tension. And somehow that tension has strengthened my faith rather than destroy my faith. Now, the seventh reason why, I told you I'm going to give you 7 reasons why I believe God exists, okay? The question is, does God exist? Do you think God exists or you think it's a lie? Do you think we've been sold lies to? Now, this point gets me very hard. You achieve something you've wanted for years. Every one of you on the call, you achieve something you wanted for years. For a moment, it feels incredible. Then what happens? Another goal, right? Another level, another achievement. If for some of you, it is money, now you want more money. For some of you, it is a wife, it's a husband, now you want children. For some of you, it is your first home, now you want a rental property. It is, see, we are humans, so our wants are insatiable. You get one and you're going for the next. More recognition. You just got your PhD. I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, hey, I'm going to work on my doctorate. And he's like, Matt, you have 2 MBAs. What are you going to, I said, maybe I'll do 1 MBA again before I go for a doctorate. And he was like, are you crazy? I said, no, I'm not crazy. That's just what my soul yearns for. It is, you go this and you go that and you go that and you go that. More recognition, another house, another relationship, another experience. And eventually, some people reach everything they thought could make them whole, could make them happy, and discover they are still hungry. Why? Maybe we are simply wired to keep pursuing. That's possible. But I've wondered, what if some hungers cannot be satisfied by achievement? Because achievement was never what the hunger was for. What if that emphasis isn't proof that something is wrong with you? Kaylin said, even though I've never seen God, I do believe He's real. I agree with you 100%. Because of what evidence the Bible has shown us and what I have prayed, and a lot of my prayers have been answered, but I can't explain how God exists. Oh, you're getting my thought now. You're getting my thought, my man. You're getting I like that. You're getting my thought. Like, it happens. There's some things I can't explain. God is there. So I'm just giving you why I know God is there, man. I like your thought. Thank you so much. So I'm still here. What if those hungers in your gut cannot be satisfied by achievement? Because achievement was never what those hungers were meant for. What if that emptiness isn't proof that something is wrong with you, my man? What if it is pointing you somewhere? A fish out of water is restless because it was designed for another environment. I did a video on that on my channel. I did a full video on that on my channel. You think you are stuck. You think you're having problems. You might just be in a different environment. You might just be in the wrong spot. Please, guys, go watch it. And sometimes I wonder, are we restless because we are trying to satisfy a spiritual hunger with material things? Hey, that's where built for more, this channel becomes more than a phrase for me. All right. Maybe the more isn't about success. Maybe the more is God. A lot of you that know me, how I got into YouTube, I'm just in YouTube now for 1 year, 1 month. I never like talking about this stuff. I don't like putting myself out there. I like staying on my own. I read books, I study, I stay on my own. But I had this emptiness to talk about these things until I got to YouTube, and I'm so grateful we did it. I'm so grateful we started a year plus ago. I'm so grateful. Because these thoughts, I just find out that I've become more like a conduit. Thoughts comes to me like every minute just to talk about. And a lot of people come back to say, Matt, you spoke as if you knew my problem. You spoke as if we live in the same house. I said, I don't know anything, man. I'm far away in Canada. You might be far away in the East. These are thoughts that just comes to my mind. And those coincidences, you call it, I don't believe it's coincidence. I believe God brought your path here. I tell you, there are more than 2 billion, let me not go billion, 2 million live channels right now. But you decided to stay here. And you think it's coincidence. I don't believe that. I believe God orchestrated your path here to hear these words. Now, guys, I think I've said a lot. I didn't think I'll get to this, but I thought 15 minutes will be good. I'll go away tonight. I'm gonna do something later in the night. So it's 5 p.m. my time, maybe 9 p.m. CST Central. I'll have another talk around this. Guys, I want to hear more from you guys, what you think. So this is the big question tonight. What is the biggest thing stopping you from believing in God? I told you I'm not here to force you to believe in God, but what is the biggest thing stopping you from believing in God? Not Christianity, not church, not religion, God. What makes you hesitate? Before I go, it would be wrong if I don't tell you what I believe. Because I asked a question. Now, let me tell you where I've landed from all these things. I believe God is real. It is mad. I believe God is real. Not because I can answer every question. I can't. Not because nothing terrible has ever happened to me. That's not true. Not because every prayer I've prayed was answered exactly the way I wanted. It wasn't. I believe because when I look at at existence, when I look at consciousness, when I look at morality, when I look at beauty, when I look at my own experiences, the person of Jesus, and the changes I've witnessed in people's lives, God makes better sense of reality to me than a reality without God. It makes more sense of reality to me than reality that there's no God. So that's where I landed. People are fighting with themselves because they don't want to accept there's a higher power in charge. And God made us in his image. The enemy has planted another thought in their brain. I get that. Yeah, you're correct. Guys, that's where I landed. Looking at all these things, looking at all these coincidences, looking at things happening in life, it made more sense to me that God exists more than God doesn't exist. But notice something. I said that's where I've landed. I'm not demanding that you pretend you're standing where I'm standing. Maybe you're still investigating. That's very good. Investigate. Maybe you're angry because the guy that said this yesterday, he said, Matt, my mother told me God doesn't exist. I guess it was from a point of anger. Maybe you're angry. Be honest with your anger, I will say. Be honest with it. Maybe you doubt. Investigate your doubt. Or maybe tonight you're realizing, I don't actually know why I believe what I believe. What makes me hesitate and not believe in God would be doubt and distrust. Yeah, I like what you're saying. Maybe tonight, some of you are realizing, I don't actually know why I believe what I believe. That's okay too, friends. It's okay. Because inherited faith, a lot of us, we were born as Christians. We were taken to church. We were taken to mosques. We were taken to wherever we went to. It's inherited faith. Inherited faith eventually has to become examined faith. You have to start looking at it yourself and say, does this even align? Does this make sense? Does this make sense? But there's one more final question. And this might be more uncomfortable than does God exist? Because suppose for a moment it does. Just suppose, okay? If you believe it doesn't, just suppose it does. Then the question changes. It isn't merely, is God real? It becomes, if God is real, what does that mean for my life? Because if God isn't real, that's one kind of universe. But if God is real, if you were created intentionally, if your existence has meaning, if your life isn't an accident, if there is something beyond this temporary life, then maybe the biggest question isn't whether God exists. Maybe it is, what does God who exists want from me? And that's where this stops becoming philosophy. It becomes personal. Guys, the next title I'm going to talk about is, if God is real, what does that mean for my life? I'll be talking about that later tonight around 9:30 CST. If God is real, what does that mean for my life? Please join us. Join us. Let us have a good chat. I like the way, I like the room, I like the energy. So thank you so much for the chat. Thank you for the response. Thank you. And hey, share this live with other people. The more, the merrier. The more I want this message to go out, and I want questions. I want people to come back and challenge these thoughts. I'm big enough to answer questions. I'm big enough to hear you're wrong. I'm okay with that. Go ahead, listen, challenge these thoughts. And hey, if you have not subscribed, kindly hit the subscribe button. The more that gets to hear this, the better. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. I'm going to set up the live for 9:30 p.m. CST. And the question is, if God is real, what does that mean for my life? Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thank you. See you later. See you later. Thank you, guys. Thank you.